So you're feeling lonely. Well, I'm going to tell you guys my story and some of the things I learned when I overcame loneliness, which was one of the most beautiful moments in my life and helped me realize a lot about the purpose of life. Now, one thing that people need to differentiate is that loneliness and being alone are two different things. And note that being alone, okay, taking time from people, from society, from the news, from media, so practically cutting off the external reality, is where you begin to conquer loneliness. For loneliness doesn't come from being alone. Loneliness comes from not knowing who you are. You'll notice that in the Bible, and if you read it in English, it doesn't do a great job of differentiating between different types of love. But there's different types of love. In the English, we say love, we express it for everything. But when you read it in the Greek, there's multiple different words used for love. There's agape, phileo, eros, right? These all talk about different types of love. There's the sexual attraction type of love. There's that brotherly love. There's the agape love of God, the unconditional love. There's the family type of love. But notice that if people have all these types of love, they have a loving family, they have good friends, they have good coworkers, they're surrounded, they have a relationship, they're married, they have children, they have all of this, but they're still feeling lonely, is because they have not achieved or came to the realization or found the treasure that Christ was talking about, is the love that you are. You have not found out who you are. You try to find yourself in loving other people because that's the closest thing you can get to finding out who you are. This is why a lot of people desire a partner, someone to live with. Is really you're not chasing the partner or an individual or the relationship. What you are chasing indirectly, right, is your identity of being love. Okay, so you're trying to be a lover to become love, right? When a baby is born, something's born in the husband and wife. Love. They became love. The day the baby was born or was conceived, there's this type of love that is born in a human. When the baby might pass away, what happens? They lose their identity of being a lover because the baby's gone. Right? So we as humans got to differentiate that instead of chasing a relationship or a condition that enables us to be a lover, we need to consciously become aware that we are love. Okay? So, in other words, when we are trying to distract ourselves from the loneliness, what we usually tend to do is find something to occupy our mind to not feel this loneliness. But you're distracting yourself from the exact mission that you came here to overcome while being on earth, which is to figure out who you are, one with God. And this is what Christ taught. And he says, if you forsake yourself, your identity, who you think you are, for my identity, you will find yourself. Okay? Because Christ came here, is the highest expression of the human being in union with God. This is why the Son of God and the Son of Man, Yeshua the Christ. So Yeshua the Christ taught the way, a way of realizing who you are, one with the Father, through me. To receive me is to become one with the Father, as Christ said. Right? If you receive a word from a prophet, you get the reward of a prophet. If you receive the word from God, which is Yeshua the Christ, you get the reward of a God. Correct? So you're here to realize that you're one with God, that you are love. So the idea is not to chase love where it's something external of you, but to become aware that you are one with it. So how do you go about this? You need to crucify yourself. You need to give up all of these identities that you cling to, temporary identities. How do you identify a temporary or false identity? One way. Does it exist? Did it exist a couple years ago, and will it exist in the future? Did it exist centuries ago, and will it exist in terms of the eternal realm? Okay. A cultural, ethnic, religious identity, all of these things are going to pass away. Once you leave Earth and the collective consciousness that's on Earth, these concepts are not going to exist. So you need to begin to identify yourself with principles that are eternal, right? So you should not build up forms of identity and cling to them within you that are not going to exist in the afterlife or when you pass away from having your life on Earth. So when you're spending time with yourself, you begin to feel lonely is because you don't know who you are. Christ says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. He's saying that the I am, right? When you say, I don't know who I am, you are rejecting your divinity. To reject your divinity, which is to become one with the love, is to kill yourself. It is to choose death. Loneliness is a indicator that you're still dead, though you're alive. Right? Christ says, I came here to give life. I am the resurrection. He's implying that people, even though you live, you're still dead. As he said, let the dead bury the dead. He's implying that the human consciousness is dead in terms of what? The Father. Unconditional love. Because what killed the collective consciousness or humanity? It was what happened in the garden. When they bit the fruit, they died to God and became alive to the law. That's the first death. But in Christ, all things shall be resurrected through his obedience. Just as the disobedience of Adam, the first Adam, put everything into death, the obedience of Christ, the second Adam, will put everything into life. Because he says, he who believes in me, though he lives, he shall never die. And even if he dies, he shall live. So he's not talking about a physical passing away. He's talking about you becoming alive while you're living. And even if you die physically, you shall live for eternity. Is because you spiritually linked yourself to the principle that is eternal and immortal. Okay? So, how do you cast out loneliness then? Loneliness comes from, I am not loved. That's where it comes from. Or you're in a torment. You're in a state of torment where you believe that I need to work for love. I need to prove myself to love. How do you identify if you're trying to prove yourself for love? Well, where are you personally expecting most love from? It might be from men, just in the general picture, right? It might be from women. It might be from your superiors at work. It might be your parents. And it might be even God. But realize that all those things exist in your brain. You conceived them. Notice that your conception of God, you created that concept of God. How can you create God in your head? It's just your perception of God. To become one with God is to become one with the Creator. You should not worship that which is created, even things that your imagination created. Your imagination created God, the concept of God in your head. Not knowing you're supposed to destroy all concepts and become one with the Creator, which is the imagination. So when you say I am, your I amness has power to create and bring forth realities into your life. So you have to adopt the principles of Christ to cast out loneliness. What are the principles of Christ? Practicing forgiveness, mercy, and grace. So within your mind, you have this concept of yourself associated to your name, your personal name that you're given. You need to forgive this entity that you claim or hold to as being you. So you need to forgive yourself. You need to show yourself mercy. Okay? This is because the day you're born, and by the time you become aware and conscious of the way your brain or your mind operates, you have already committed too many mistakes, too many issues. You've said too many things you shouldn't have said. Things have happened to you that you desired not to happen to you. Right? So you need to see that at the meta-narrative, when we come down to it, you are a victim and a transgressor. Okay? How do you love a victim and how do you love a transgressor? By the knowledge of Christ. So what did Christ teach? Right? Have mercy on the victim and forgive the transgressor. So this is how you practically resurrect your identity from the state of condemnation. Because the victim, right, being a victim causes hate, anger, bitterness, right? A transgressor causes guilt and shame. So these emotions are very low, very heavy. So the way to get rid of them is to begin to receive the principles of Christ and begin to apply them to yourself, that you may be like the Father. And when you do this, the Father will be revealed to you because you received the Son, right? How do you receive the Son? You receive what Christ taught. Love your neighbor as I have loved you. This also includes you guys. You need to love yourself the way Christ loves you, because when you do that, the Father will be revealed to you in you, which is what? Love. And this is why Christ says it's good for me to go back home. It's good for me to go back to the Father, because wherever I am, you will also be. And if you want to be where I am, follow me and do what I command you. So do not judge and condemn yourself, because when you judge yourself, you're saying you're not worthy of love. When you condemn yourself, you're making the absolute conclusion that you will never be lovable. So don't sow that in your heart. Forgive yourself, show yourself mercy, and that will resurrect and deliver your soul out of your idea of or your concept of self into the mind of Christ, where you become one with everything. And that experience will blow your mind. It will absolutely shock you. The things you will see and the things that the Father will reveal to you, it will transform your reality. And this is how you overcome loneliness. Loneliness is going from I'm not loved or I'm chasing for love to I realizing that I am loved because I became one with the principle of love. And how did you become one with the principle of love? By receiving the Son of love, which is grace, which was expressed in forgiveness and mercy. For you to receive the principles that Christ spoke is to become Him. One thing to note, last thing to note before I end the video is there's a prayer that people ask, God, show me the way you see me. That requires you to become Him, doesn't it? For you to see the way God sees you, you have to integrate His belief systems into you, and you will see yourself through His eyes. You're practically asking God, make me one with you. Make me like you. If you ever prayed, God, I want to see myself the way you see me, you just asked Him God, make me one with you. And that's not an evil thing. That is not a blasphemous thing. Christ taught that. Christ said, Father, let us make them one with us, that they may become like us. Okay? But with that being said, guys, I hope you guys have a beautiful day. Be the light of the world. Be a light to yourself. Look up to yourself. Believe in yourself the way you believe in God, because God believes in you. He wants the best for you. His desire is to give you the kingdom of God. But other than that, take care.